Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of K9's Talking Sense. On this episode, I'm having a friend of mine on here. Many of you know him. He was a K9 handler in the city of the NFL Hall of Fame. He is a well-known trainer. He has a podcast himself, one of the largest podcasts for dog trainers, Working Dog Radio. He is also a best-selling author. Eric Stanbro. Eric, thank you for coming on here. And we're going to have a discussion here in a second.
I think that might be the first intro with the author part. So
yeah, see, there you go.
I've been on a few shows. I don't know if anybody's mentioned it, but yeah, best-selling on Amazon.
There you go.
Fair, so
hey, Amazon's huge in my book, so yeah. I live on that place, so that's a good spot.
It's crazy. I just looked. I do about 200 books a month. I sell about 200. So nice. I'm like, that's cool. It's not bad. It's like, I don't know, $1,100 a month extra. It's not fun money.
It's exactly. Go do some fun with stuff with that stuff, with that money. So everybody, this episode came about because Eric and I were having a discussion with each other, talking about just different detection things and things that people have questions about. And I get these questions a lot in a seminar format where it's all in person, but we wanted to actually have this open discussion for all of you guys to hear. So Eric's going to run through questions that he gets, that he's gone through, that we figured you guys could hear both of us go back and forth and talk. But this is going to be kind of where Eric is asking me the questions and I'm going to give answers and we'll kind of just go back and forth. So I hope you guys enjoy. And Eric, I'll let you start it.
Yeah, this is different for sure. Get to ask you questions on your show, which is nice. Yeah. It'll be fun. So yeah, over the years, like you and I have talked, we talk on our show, you talk on your show about it, evolving and changing and learning and doing things. Man, this ring light, I'm telling you this. So in the basement of this building I'm in is a grave from 1854. Oh, wow. And I think that, sometimes her name is Avarilla Ann. She comes in and messes with some stuff. So this light keeps, you're going to see my face get yellow, white, red, whatever. But anyways, so we talk about changing and adapting. I still am old and I still use boxes, for imprinting, which, I know you did early and then you've changed. I stuck with it. I think do it pretty good, but obviously, there's some things that I probably do incorrectly, or as far as, the smell of the box and everything like that. But anyways, and I was the guy for a long time, we got 4 odors. So, for example, say we got 4 odors. We're going to do 5 cars, 4 hot, 1 blank, or no blank. All the rooms, every time the dog goes into a room, there's a hide there because, I'm lucky now at the Funhouse, there's about 300 rooms here, but most people don't have that. They got 2-3 rooms, right? Yeah. So then listening to you and learning and people making sense of things, and then court cases coming up. Well, you mean every car you sniff at training? It's hot. There's no blank cars, and no wonder the dog alerted. Blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. So then now, I'm doing more blanks, right? So when I started that, I was doing blanks, like legit. There's no odor. There's just the odor that has been in that room forever. There's I didn't put anything, plastic bags or touch anything really, except for where the dope is. And then I'm like talking to you about, and other guys about distractions. We need more distractors. You need, anomalous things. You need things that aren't the target odor. And so I started adding some of that stuff in there. And then, like, for example, I still have access to the city impound lot, and there's 300-400 cars in there, and there's a row of 50 cars, for example, and I'll put 1 hide out. So they document 49 blanks, 1 hot. It's not really, so if I put it in the middle, it's about halfway. But now I'm doing more and more blanks. So then now I was rewarding on every car, every hot one, have them reward. And then we've learned, about variable rewards. And so then I'm like, okay, how do I do that? Do I every other, every second, every third? Then you get into that pattern and you're trying to change that up. Yeah. And then, so what I find is I'm like, okay, no rewards except for praise off to the last one because we have 8 dogs, so we got to go. I can get those dogs through 7-8 rooms in minutes. Boom, boom, especially on like a certification day. Boom, 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 pay. So then I'm like, is the dog going through the motion? So this is when I reach out to you is, Do you reward the searching behavior in the blank rooms? And what does that look like?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Super good question. And my answer is I'm kind of walk through it. So first thing is, of course, it depends.
Yeah, of course.
So with that being said, is I want to highlight one part of that equation is what we talked about. A lot of times the philosophy has always been only reward when the dog finds odor. And that is as true as the day is long, is that we do that, right? There is a caveat to that. So in training, we follow that principle. We reward every time the dog finds something. However, operationally, depending on what kind of detection discipline you do, you may not, for any number of reasons. Could be lots of valid reasons, maybe, or also it could be because your trainer told you don't do that. But operationally, you change the rule. And what can happen is the dog will start getting very wise to the context, meaning they understand when we pull up on Thursday evening, it's training night, there's dogs in the parking lot, all the dogs know each other, they're all barking in the cars. They know what this is about. They're at Disney World today, toys are gonna come flying in every direction, and they're gonna have a great day. And they're gonna get lots of fines to the point that you made. Then the other side of that is they show up at a location, maybe it's a search warrant, maybe it's a traffic stop. And in this situation, these cues or these signals about this environment or this context is going to tell them I might not get reinforcement, or the reinforcement becomes questionable. So you said it a second ago, variable reinforcement. So there are some trainers who go, okay, yes, I realize I might have a problem if I'm always doing rewarding and things at training, and then operationally I don't for whatever reason. And I don't want to introduce my dog to that concept in the real world. I'd rather introduce it in training so I can see what potential fallout there might be if I don't reward my dog when it finds odor. So that kind of got some of the trainers that I would call maybe forward thinking or a little bit more progressive, because they're willing to kind of get out of the mold without maybe being told to do so, because they realized they saw some things in dogs they trained and said, I need to see what this looks like in training. So then the question, they started doing what you mentioned. They set up training. It either was blank or they did the typical praise off in training, which was good. But then the question became, which was driven in the legal questions that started hitting our industry, which was, just like you said, I'm looking through your records. Every time you train, you find something. And then I've looked through your deployment records and you have a very high, what we would call find ratio, meaning you've called an alert and maybe something was there or not, but it was called positive, or it was substantiated by the driver, passengers, etc. Right? So when you look at the totality of the records, deployment and training, it looked like this dog gets out of the car and is basically going to respond because that's what's been documented. So questions started happening about, well, how do I counter that? I need to show blanks. I need to show my dog can correctly sniff an area, show nothing is here, and I was correct as the handler, agreeing with my dog, saying, I read my dog, there's nothing here, we're done. Then what started happening is you'd have handlers go, well, my dog is getting frustrated or doing, whether it could be active behaviors, the dog gets, after X amount of time, hasn't found something, may bite a car door handle, may bite a drawer or jump on, whatever it is. So they were like, well, how do I deal with that? So now the industry said, we started saying more often, hey, look at what you're doing, do more blanks, and how do I reinforce that without it being a negative thing? So at first, when I first started doing this, I would, let's say, I started small. So like most people would do, I'd probably search one room that I knew was blank. And when it was blank, I had the option of praising my dog, good boy, good girl, praise the dog and go away. Or I could reinforce. And I could reinforce with its high value toy if I chose to. And I did the toy quite a bit because as I started talking to other people and just kind of collecting my own experience, I started saying, okay, what I really want to do is reinforce the right answer. And if the right answer is odors here, there's reinforcement for that. But it's varied. Sometimes it's going to be their favorite thing. Sometimes it's going to be a praise off. Sometimes it may be nothing because that might happen to me operationally. I may not be able to do anything other than like, let's get the hell out of here from a bomb dog handler. Now, in the training, I could do the same thing. My dog searches the space. It finds something. I might give it its highest value reward. I might praise it off, or I might let's get the hell out of here. They also will search the space, show me nothing's here. I can also give them the high value reward. Now, here's where the question usually comes in. Well, Cameron, how am I to know when I reward my dog, what am I rewarding for if there's nothing there? And I stole this from my friends in Austria, a guy named Florian Schneider. And I was watching them. If you guys follow him, he's got a social media called Kinotech, and Kino Talk is his podcast. It's mostly in German, so he has a few English episodes, but it's mostly German. But when I got to be around them, they had a very thoughtful way about it, which was for them, what they do is when the dog searches the area and they're happy with what the dog searched, and this is blank, they call the dog to middle, which it comes back to them, goes between their legs. And at this point, they can say they're finished and they put the dog up, or they may send the dog to go search a different area. But there was a break. There was a communication aspect that was happening to let the dog know, stop doing what you're doing right now. And I might reward you when you come back to middle. I might put you up, and I might put you back to work again. But what it did was it created a clear communication system. So knowing that our industry in the United States, the middle concept was a decent idea, but a lot of handlers may not do that for a lot of very good reasons. So when talking to Michael Ellis and a few others, I was kicking around the idea, well, I have a start command. I have sook, search, seek, and that just tells a dog to go do the job. It doesn't guarantee when they hear sook, search, seek, that they're going to find something and get paid for it. It just means go do the thing. So kicking around the idea with mostly Michael, I was like, instead of using the word middle, I could use something that I saw happen a lot in the other detection disciplines, which was you hear some handlers say finish, or they would say all done or whatever. And that became a cue to the dog that they could stop for that moment. And what I chose to do after I asked the dog, or I gave that dog a signal that we could stop for right now, I could reward, I could just praise, or we could stop and start again. So I started playing with that myself and doing it with a bunch of dogs that we had here. And the results were really, really helpful for the dogs because it gave them a cue to go do the job, and it gave them a cue that we could stop for the moment. And just like the cue to start the search, sook, seek, whatever, all done, finished, whatever I wanted to use as a signal that we're stopping for the moment, doesn't mean that they're always going to get reward either. It just means it's communicating to them, hey, stop for a second, we're finished. Now, some handlers have used a form of this as an emergency break, like if a dog got too far away or whatever they did, they would just do a recall and call the dog back to them. And that works too. But what I wanted something that wasn't polluted with some other job associated to it. So like recall could be different. I want recall to be recall, and I want all done just to be, hey, we're stopping for a second. So to answer your question, how it started being incorporated was doing a search, like a room or two rooms that were blank, and I called blank and I was correct, I would just, in most cases, just walk out of the space, and then I would say, all done. And then I could, like in a lot of my videos I share with my dog, I say all done. So I say all done, and sometimes I toss his toy to him, and he carries the toy, walks back the car, and he's super happy. Other times it's all done, just a pat in the side, and then we're done. But what I'm able to do is to show the dog that sometimes you're getting reinforced for doing the right answer. And a lot of times, because we've created it this way, the right answer was always finding something. And I still want a lot of value towards odor and finding things. But I also, because the flip side of this is when you don't give any other communication other than find it all the time, what happens to the dog's anticipation or expectation? The expectation is we find something. And a lot of dogs will begin to stress out if they haven't found it yet. And then not only do the dogs start stressing, but when handlers don't know the answer and they haven't found something yet, we all know the answer. When a handler sees the slightest little head snap or a sniff longer on something, they go, that's got to be it. And then they overdo that area. They go back to it 2 times, 3 times or more. The dog's going, well, you seem to be convinced about this. Maybe I should too. And we start seeing that's where the falsing can start to happen. You know, falsing's got a lot of other problems, but that's where we might see a false creep itself into the picture, is because when the handler doesn't know the answer and the dog clearly isn't finding anything, and there's no way to communicate, hey, let's take a break for a second, other than a leash pull or, hey, come here. It can create, I don't want my dog to guess is what I'm getting at. I don't want my dog to overly guess. So by creating a start and a stop, I can create a little bit more communication into the system that gives the dog a little bit better clarity. And then in that, I can reinforce what I choose to.
Okay. So I've got a couple questions based off of that.
Yeah.
So let's start with from the handler's perspective. But if I'm doing the all done, won't I confuse him if I give him his favorite toy?
Again, to answer the question, if I did this in a normal search, probably I could definitely confuse the dog, right? So the way we introduce it like in box work. So I'll have maybe my 4 boxes or 5 boxes out, or a lineup, or whatever the simple system is, right? A wall, whatever you want to use. I make that a blank. And when the dog hits each one, I walk off and go, all done. And then we go do what we want to go do. I may play, I may do this. Usually the very first time I introduce this, I'm going to reward, for just the first introduction of it. Then after that, as I randomly introduce in this session, in what I call the foundational sessions, the protocol training that we all did in the beginning, I introduce blanks into that system, because that way, if I have an old dog who's not seen this yet, I can go back to a system that they very well know and introduce a new concept with the least amount of fallout connected to anything else. But I can take a brand new dog that I'm starting. This is what I do now all the time. I introduce 0 in that early stage. So once my dog understands the odor and I'm going to 3 or more items in that system or in that stage of training, there's going to be a blank run in there. And when the dog goes down to each item, they don't find anything, I will probably do a little leash pull towards me, but I'm going to say all done first, and then come to me, and then I'm going to give them some value. And again, I do variable reinforcement type, not just schedule, but reinforcement type. Sometimes they may get some food. Sometimes they get their favorite toy. Sometimes they get another toy that they like. Okay. I vary that up because I still want them to be like, I do want to keep working. But the question that you kind of bring up is sometimes dogs, what the handlers are fearing is, well, if I reinforce, let's just say all done, won't I have a dog who searches maybe 2 cabinets in a room and go, look, I found nothing, pay me. And like I tell a lot of them is, if they did that, what do you think you should do? And a lot of them will be like, well, I'm not going to pay that. Okay, get them back to work. You didn't give the signal that they're all done, and they didn't give you a signal that they found something. So keep working, because when I say that, I said, I guarantee you've seen that even without this concept. You've seen a dog search a few things and look at you and go, I got nothing. So what we did as a human is, the minute I introduced the idea of I could reward you for not finding something, then the fear comes in from the handler's point of view or trainer's point of view that, that dog might solicit you for nothing to get it. I'm like, this bitch is soliciting you no matter what all the time anyway. They're constantly soliciting to you, especially if you're a handler who inadvertently telegraphs without even knowing it, or you have a bias in your mind and the dog can read it in some way or another. Your dog will solicit you. So what I advocate for is just better clarity to the dog, what we're doing, when it starts, when it stops, and I reinforce the right answer, with the vast majority of that reinforcement happening with odor there, but also randomly reinforcing when we're all done and it's blank. Because I want to constantly violate the dog's expectation, in the sense of, you're not always going to find something, and every search doesn't mean there's something there. So that way they start going, okay, I need to search. My goal is to search the space. And if something's there, tell you. If there's nothing there, it should be very obvious to the handler that the dog's showing you not much. But again, because we know it's a training day, the handlers start overthinking. They go, well, I didn't check that little corner, that blade of grass, or that little cabinet seam. And then they go overboard with it. And the dog isn't used to that yet. And when the handler has gone overboard in the early stages to help the dog out, figure out the game, the dog goes, oh, this behavior that you're doing now is predictive to me that there's probably something here. So the only thing stinky here is this smell right here. So I'll do this at that spot. And then the handler, when it's blind to them, single blind, they'll go alert. They'll call this too. A lot of times handlers call an alert and the dog didn't even actually alert. The dog is just sniffing something longer than something else. And then they're just quick to raise their hand or call alert, even though the dog hasn't come to a response yet. Yeah.
So, what I had them doing was, you go search the room, go in as they're coming out, good, and keep going. What made me start thinking about it is like, Is the dog understand that I said good because they were searching, or is the dog think I saying good because they were walking out the door of the room, for example, or off to the next one? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I could actually condition the dog to exit by rewarding the exit. You know, so how far away? Because this will lead into I'll just throw this question in here. If I'm a direct reward person, how do I pay that the hunting behavior? If I'm an indirect reward person, how do I pay that? Same thing.
So first thing we have to say is I'm not necessarily reinforcing searching, even though indirectly I could be, right? The dog, especially dogs who love searching, and I'm biased here on this. I have spaniels and labs whose whole life is to search. Like they'd rather search than play with their toy. Their toy sometimes slows them down from the thing that they actually love. Now, you made a great observation. If it becomes so well timed with what you're doing, the action is timed with a signal. So when they walk out the door, they hear good. And if reward followed there, that could be a problem. Like I said, what I'll end up doing in most cases, and this is space dependent, but I'll just use a room because that's the example we've been giving. I'm going to say all done in the room. And where I'll probably reward will probably be once I leave the room, just because, again, operationally, I got to keep in my mind what I'm going to do for real at the end state. So I don't always want to say all done and then maybe engage and play within the space that I might have to come back to. Let's just say we didn't do it as good as we thought or whatever happens. So I want to at least create a safe place. So I'll say all done while we're searching for sure. The dog will come back to me. And then if I walk out of the room, because it's like, if you can make this analogy like a marker, when I would say yes or free, I can take my time taking the toy out and reward the dog because the dog did hear the signal and it knows that can predict reward. I can say all done and walk out the door and then reinforce in whatever way I want to. And in the beginning, yes, I'm probably the first few times I do this, I will reinforce with a high value item. But after I see the dog kind of understands when they hear the word all done and they respond to that, we walk out of the room. I'm just going to praise good boy, good girl. And we either go to the next room and start again, or we go back out. What to the point that we're trying to make too in this is the system that we mostly use right now is the dog searches the space. At whatever point the handler finally says nothing is here, they walk out. And let's say that was the end of the search. They walk out. They might praise their dog a little bit, but what happens next? Most times the dog goes right back to that car they've been sitting in for the past 6 hours. And that can be punishing to the dog. Mm-hmm. That could also create some dogs to go, you know what? I want to keep doing this game longer. So if I act like I don't, this is where I have a lot of handlers also ask, my dog will bypass the odor a lot of times. They'll hit a room, hit the odor, and I know where it's at, and they leave it. Why do you think that happens? There's a number of reasons why. A common reason is some of the dogs just don't want to be done yet. That finding it could predict to that dog, it ends the game. So they're like, yeah, it's there, but I want to keep searching for a while. And then eventually when the handler brings them back or does whatever, or the handler just waits it out, like which most handlers will typically say they will do, they wait it out, the dog will eventually go back to that spot and respond to it. That, like I said, this isn't a guarantee, but it could be one of the reasons is the dog is like going, if I find the thing, the best part of what I want to do is over with. I don't want it to end after I've been in that car for 5 hours and I got a 3-minute search out of this. No, thanks. I want to keep going. So I want to violate these expectations. So sometimes there could be a hide right at the start. There could be nothing for 5 or 10 rooms. I constantly change what the dog could possibly predict. It's hard for us as an industry though, because we are very pattern oriented ourselves. We know, like I said, it's training. It's a training building. We have, let's say your drug dog handler, you have 4 or 5 odors you're working with. You want to put out all your odors so you can go down that week and go checkbox, and you got your stuff done. That, to me, isn't the way to drive the train for training. I want training to be objective based. And especially if I'm operational, what can I do that matches what I'm going to face operationally? And back to the whole point of the questions is 0 is a operational answer. And I need the legal side to understand, and I demonstrate through my training records that we can correctly navigate a unknown blank. How I get there is what we're talking about now, which means I'm going to incorporate some blank rooms. And this is the other thing I'll add right now because it's a common question. Handlers go, no, I do blanks. And I said, okay, show me how you do blanks. Well, we have 3 rooms that are blank and then the last room is hot. I'm like, that's not a blank. A true controlled negative to the legal community, which is also connected to the science community. Controlled negative means there's nothing anywhere in the search. And they want to see that your dog, which we're really good at showing our dogs are good in the affirmative. They're good at finding the thing. And we show that. But every legal instrument that we use, whether it be intoxilizer, radar, laser, we show that device also can show zeros. So it shows that the machine's working. It's a sensor. So we need to show that our dog, technically the machine, the sensor, is also accurate at 0, and the end user, the human, can read that what 0 looks like and call it correctly. So I want to protect handlers when they get legally challenged or operationally challenged, that they understand what 0 looks like, and they're just as competent at 0 as they are in the affirmative. And the affirmative is the easy way. We find stuff, we pay for that, we do that. What you're bringing up is the side that we haven't been as good at, which is showing 0 and how we may reinforce that if we choose to. But we need to have the scales be not so out of balance. So much heavy towards fines and rewards, and zeros mean negative, and for the dog could also mean get put right back in the car. And the handlers fear that too. Handlers feel, well, if I do too many zeros or too many blanks, my dog's not going to have fun with this anymore. My dog's going to think it sucks. And I say, okay, there's truth to that, right? If you fear that, there could be truth there. Let's test it. Let's see where is this dog's line at? Is it 2 rooms? Is it 3? We need to know these answers so that way we can prepare for it. But avoiding it because we're fearful of it isn't the best answer either. Yeah.
The one thing that I started messing with it that really kind of throws people off is, and I don't know where you're falling. So I'll bring up rooms again because I live in Ohio. Ohio sucks. Weather sucks. A lot of times we're indoors, or if it's nice, we'll go to the impound lot. Finishing the last room as blank, ending the search on a blank.
Yep.
Maybe they got paid the room before or 2 rooms before that, but they get paid or they end on a nothing and get put up. Mm-hmm. Where do you fall on that?
Yeah, I think we have to do that. We have to do that in training because it's going to happen to you operationally.
Yeah.
So what I will do is, just to your point, we searched, let's just say we had 10 rooms to search and we had a find in room number 7, let's say. I completed my search at room number 10. There was nothing there. For me, I'll say all done. And I walk out and we go outside and I take out their toy and we're going to play because we're completely finished now. So I'm going to wear his little butt out. I'm going to satiate the dog's needs. I'm going to engage with them. We just work together as a team. Let's fucking party. What do we all do as handlers, or as cops? Especially after doing like a big operation or doing whatever, we're gonna go blow off some steam later on. Some of us are gonna go out and have some beer. Some of us are gonna go, eat some shitty food, whatever it is. We do something to satiate ourselves. So I want the handlers to still feel that they're a team with their dog. And in a situation, it's your call. I'm not saying you do this every time, but whatever the right amount of times are for you and your dog, when you end on that search where there was nothing there, whether the entire search was blank or the last car, the last room, whatever it was blank, go have fun. Don't put the dog up right away. Go to a space, have fun. Maybe sometimes just hang out with the dog. Just hanging out. That dog, like you brought it before, having that relationship and that affection between each other is going to make the bond even better. And I'm good with having some professional boundaries, for lack of a better description, but sometimes let's just fuck off together. Let's go have some fun. Mm-hmm. You're my pal. We're going to go out there because, when you talk to a lot of, I know you talk to a lot of military handlers, they're going to tell you their best time they've ever had with their dogs is when they were deployed. When they lived side by side together, they had to survive with one another. They had to, cuddle up. They had to also separate and do the job. But that deep type of connection is super relevant, and in detection is critical because the better you know your dog, the better you're going to read your dog. You're going to be so nuanced about, this is how I know something's there, because he does this, and the words I use is what's predictable, repeatable, reliable. When he's at Odor, my dog does this, and it does this really frequently when it's Odor. Yes, sometimes some of those behaviors might be there when it's smelling dog piss, but it doesn't do all of them in that sequence, or it doesn't do this breathing in that way when it's dog piss. Like handlers, a lot of handlers can tell you, yeah, my dog would do lip licking when it's dog piss or other animals. That becomes more obvious for them. Mm-hmm. But certain things when it's odor can look very similar. So I want them to get really good. And I stole this from Matt Devaney, who runs the Border Patrol program. He calls it splitting hairs with a dog's nose. We start trying to get so and in some cases doing that is a good thing. In some cases it's a bad thing. In this case, I want a handler to be able to go, you know what? This is how I know, because I know my dog so well that when it does this, it's a higher probability that that's target odor that's right there, not some other BS. So in that whole encompassing answer is do what works best for you. Don't always just put your dog away and do nothing. Don't always go play with a toy. Do a mixture of both, because both is going to be what will happen to you operationally. We end up liking, again, because it's simplistic for us as trainers and handlers to have very clear definitions. It's always this and always that, or never that. And what we really want to do is go, at this moment in time, I'm going to do this because it makes sense to go do that. In this case, it doesn't make sense to do that, so I'm not going to do it right now. But in training is where I need to flesh this out and see what it looks like. And I don't want your first time to be during an operational situation as much as I possibly can. I mean, some shit's going to happen. But if I've done my job as a trainer and as a handler, I have at least put myself into some of these conditions training in the training environment so I can fuck it up, learn from it, and do that less when I'm asked to go do it for real, or when I'm under the microscope of a lot of other eyes that are saying, hey, is there something here or not? Whether it be your drug unit or your bomb squad that's relying on you for information, I want to have you feel pretty confident about knowing the answer, because I've put you through a lot of pressure testing through your training and you've seen these pictures before and you're a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, for you young handlers or all handlers are listening, avoid that always, man. Yeah. You want to get a defense attorney to start salivating in a suppression hearing, say always on anything, they're going to twist you into a pretzel. So just be real careful on that. So I want to go back to your all done here real quick. Yeah. So it sounds to me like if you're going to do all done and you're going to reward it any kind, food, praise, whatever it is, it's going to be on the move out or away from the kind of...
It's consistently inconsistent. Okay. If I can do it like vehicle searching, I can do it in a vehicle. Like I can do it in the parking lot or, on the side of the road if I was safe enough. It was a training day and we were in a side street or something, right? Again, the situation will dictate, but whenever I say that word, the dog understands we're done. And the cool thing is I can say all done, turn 10 feet to my left and say souk and start again. So all done is just, I'm trying to bookend the communication. I'm saying souk is my start, all done is my finish. The dog clearly understands we're starting. And I also do, Michael's really good about explaining this. It's called signals, rituals, and habituation. I want to do things that help the dog understand. And you do this a lot with the e-collar training. Mm-hmm. Signal, tone means something. Mm-hmm. I want to provide some feedback for the dog. So in this case, I have a signal that says start, and I have a signal, whatever word I use, that means we're finished. After I say that, I can follow it up with a lot of different things, depending on the situation, where we're at, and how we do it. I just want to be consistently inconsistent, because if again, to the point you made earlier, if I do that every time I'm at the doorway or I walk out the door, you're right. A dog might start predicting, well, this area or the doorway, or this is what I have to do to get that. I can do it in the room, but I can reward outside the room. Or I can do it in the room and I might be able to reward in the room if it was a safe place to do so or the space is big enough. On cart, what I want to do is when I give all done, I'm doing that when the dog has shown me it's done sniffing the space. Does that make sense? Where I'm not going to do it while the dog is sniffing a cap. I'm going to go all done and walk away. I'm going to go all done when the dog's kind of like, what do you want from me? Like, okay, I've seen that you cleared the space and this is my job. I have to make sure my dog has prosecuted that space. There's nothing left here to search. We've done a good job. You're not showing me anything. And now you're starting to go, I can read in my dog. He may be half-ass searching now, but I can tell like there's nothing here. So I say all done because I'm in charge of saying when I'm done. And taking it a step further, my friends from Austria also did it this way. they would, like I said, they did middle. That was their way of stopping it. Their dog was on odor. Sometimes they would say middle when the dog was on odor and bring the dog back because it was a safe way to get the hell out of there.
Oh, explosive dogs. Yeah.
Yeah. So, or even like they said, narc dogs because of fentanyl. They don't know what the exposure could be. So I like that idea. And I have incorporated with some of our dogs, and what you said is exactly right. I've incorporated with bomb dogs. So my dog could be on full alert. I say all done, and then we're out of there. And whether I reward or not, because both my marker, if I'm using a marker, my marker could mean, hey, come back to me. Because most cases when people do mark, it means to come back to them. That I can mark and I don't have to pay and I'm out. And that's a marker and the dog knows it's right. All done is not a marker, and that's what this is where it gets confused. Some people, I'll have these questions. Yeah, I'll have these questions, and people will go, so all done's a marker. No. Just like souk. Is souk a marker? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, what is souk to you? Oh, it's a command. It means that we're going to go do the work. Okay, all done is the same thing. It just means you're finished doing the work. And they're like, oh, okay, because you said you'd reward after saying all done. I said, well, sometimes I reward after saying souk if my dog finds something. Mm-hmm. I'm in control of what I reinforce. And to your point, we need to make sure we're clear about what reinforcement we're giving and why we're giving it and why we're not giving it in some cases. But I want the dog to experience all of those things in a training environment. So if there is a bad outcome for whatever reason, to the point you made, maybe the dog searches 3 or 4 feet and turns around, looks at me and go, well, what now? And this is a great example because in the Navy mammal program, there's a great trainer. He's been an Orange County K9 deputy in California for, I think, 30 or more years. He was a reserve deputy, worked interdiction on the interstate outside of Pendleton. So he also was the head trainer for the Navy mammal program. He and I had this conversation years ago, and he asked the same thing about how we went about rewarding blanks or doing this. And this is how this was like the nexus of the conversation for me to get better about this. But he said within the mammal program, and you might have seen it when you were out there, on the boats, they had a green paddle and a red paddle that would hang off the side of the boat. Mm-hmm. And for the dolphins, they would search X amount of time and come back and touch the red paddle and say, I've got nothing. And if they were correct, the trainers would reinforce. If they came through, they say green, then they put the little nose cone on the dolphin goes out and marks the location and then comes back. And again, the trainers will know the answer in the beginning stages so they can reinforce appropriately. So what I'm saying is in the early stages, it's okay for the handler to know this is a blank. And when you see the dog is searched, there's nothing here and you're happy with it, say all done. And as a trainer, I may prep this when you start. Hey, when you see you're happy and you're done, say all done. And when you can reward in here, or say all done, but when you go into the next room, go reward in there, or go play in there, or go play in the hallway, or go play, a few cars down from where you're at. I have to at least help that new handler out to create some understanding of what to do. But I want to reinforce when I reinforce, I want them to understand there's a routine for this. What happens is the handlers will go, they don't understand that. So again, me as a trainer, I have to create very clear boundaries to the handler. This is how this will work. This is a blank search. I want you to search this room. When you see the dog is showing you nothing and you feel confident about it. And again, I preface this, we've already done the box work where I've shown this concept to the dog and the handler in the box work. So now the handler does kind of understand how to do it. And then all I'm showing you is now in this space, and I might say with this high drive Mally, you're going to say all done. You're just going to praise that dog and we're going to walk out. You aren't going to do any rewarding because your dog does not need any toy right now. I don't need him jacked up because I'm going to put you into a search in about 5 more seconds in another room. So I don't want that handler to have to be fighting the dog either. So this is a judgment call. This isn't a all or nothing kind of concept. Reinforcement can be a lot of things. It could be, like I said, the highest value item or just simple praise, or in some cases, just hearing all done just means they're all done. That's why it's not a marker. It's just all done. It's just a signal.
So could you use all done as because I don't know how dogs view it really. I think so is going. So say you're coming out and you're going room to room to room, and the dog is probably viewing that as a continuous event, right?
Yes,
and they're going, and sometimes they're getting more frustrated, more worked up as they're going. Could you use all done as a precursor to capping, like almost like the Men in Black pen? Like, okay, we're done. This is a whole separate event. And so when the dog comes in and he's on one, or he comes out of the car hot, Like maybe that's his thing. And you know, those dogs, they skip the first half of the car.
Yeah.
But would you ever use all done and then wait?
Yes.
And then go to another.
Perfect. This is, again, a great example of how to use this in a way with a dog, just like you said, that comes in hot, amped up. They're not doing really good. And or the other one who comes in, searches their ass off, but you start seeing that frustration build in them because they're like, hey, mom or dad, we've cleared 2 rooms and I'm used to finding something within the first minute. Mm-hmm. And that type of dog whose anticipation has increased their arousal because they're expecting to find something. I've been in the parking lot. I hear Fido and, you know, Yoshi out there barking their asses off. I know what this means. I'm going to find something. We're 2 or 3 rooms in here now, and I haven't found something. And that handler can start going, my dog's starting to amp up. He's getting frustrated. Okay, say all done. That dog will come over to you, all done. And then you can go right into an obedience command if you wanted to. All done, plots. And wait the dog out and just chill for a little bit. Or all done and just do nothing. Just grab the leash and just wait and then walk out into the hallway or go on to another room and just chill. And when you see the dog kind of recollect itself and or I'm the trainer and I'm like, okay, I need to give this dog a find to kind of let the steam off the kettle. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to call all done in this next room right here. Just get in there, let the dog run around a little bit, sniff some spots, call all done. I'm going to bump you down 3 rooms to the hot room. Okay. I'm not going to tell you where it's at in the room, but this is now the hot room. Navigate that, you know, and then that handler comes in there and then you can look and see the dog hopefully show a good change of behavior, followed by maybe an indication, or maybe because we already know the dog is jazzed up a little bit, dog comes into that room, hits that odor. I may bomb the toy in right away. Don't even wait for the response. Or I might mark, right, depending which style you use, I'm going to reinforce just the dog acknowledging the odor. I don't need to go to the train final response because some dogs who are already jacked up and frustrated, waiting them now for a train final response might get a dog to be active at odor. This is, again, knowing your dog and having good judgment calls on what you do. Make the best decision. I would easily say if your dog is cool, absolutely wait for your train final response and pay that in whatever way you choose to do it. But I also will take a dog who's a little bit more jazzed up and him acknowledging odor can satiate him faster than try to wait him out where he might do something stupid that I don't want. And then now I can't pay him because he bit the drawer or he did whatever. So this is where, again, it's super important to be flexible in your training and what you're doing to have as little fallout items as you can and still keep the clarity of if odor's here, tell me. If odor is not here, I need to be able to read that and know what my dog looks like by saying, hey, there's nothing here I can tell because my dog has searched everything in the space. I've asked it to search a few things that I think it missed, and I'm not seeing any telltale signs. And I'll say this, most times you're going to be right. And guess what? There's going to be a few times you will be wrong. And you're going to walk out of that room and you're going to say blank, and I'm going to say, yep, there was a hide there. And then the joke I usually make is the handlers will go, well, where is it? I want to go run it. No, fuck you, go to the car. You're done. I want you to sit on your error for a little while. I want you to feel it, because if I let you go have that easy win, you won't remember why the fuck up occurred, whatever the thing was. And it might be nothing you did. It just might be bad luck. The wind moved a different direction. Whatever it was, just didn't happen. But I still want you to feel it, because I don't want you to go to your records and count that as a win, because it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times our records don't accurately reflect what happened. We will get a miss. The trainer will say, they'll bail you out, go back to that area, search it again. They'll get a find. And then you write down a find. What we need to do, and this is, I have to preface this, these are certified teams. If I'm in a training stage and we're building a team up, we're not certified yet. There's different rules that are being utilized over there. But this is a team, we're on the road, we're certified. If you have the miss, I'm not going to let you go back and get the easy win, because there's reasons why it happened, and we need to document whatever those reasons were. And then the next training session, next evolution of training that we do, we will address, if we need to address something, we will apply whatever corrective action that we all agree on that should be done on the next session. And then that and our records can show, hey, this session met with whatever the error was. Next session, corrective action was employed, and this was the outcome of that session, due to good or bad. Yeah. And that's how we get more honest, and that's how we have better data, for lack of a better description, of what is really happening versus just running. Unfortunately, a lot of my seminars right now are more about just removing the checkbox style of training that we're so used to doing, because it's just passed to us generation to generation. This is how you do detection training. What I've loved is people like you and a lot of the other ones who have turned patrol work into much more of, let's find our boundaries. Let's find our gaps. Where are we weak at? What will the dog not engage or engage really well in? And a lot of great training is happening in the patrol dog world to challenge those things to become better. Detection just hasn't gained as much popularity with that same creativity that people have in the patrol side. And what I do now is I try to share, be creative, come up with some crazy shit for detection so that way you can see the answer. We're fearful of it a little bit because, one, our egos kind of don't want to have a loss. Number two is we don't want the dog to walk into a search and not find something, because we think to ourselves, well, how boring or devastating is that to my dog to go search and not find anything? Believe it or not, in most cases, it actually increases your search work. Dogs get better. But if the dog is weaker and we know it's weaker, then we need to make some training adjustments that address the weaker thing, not because we don't want to make it feel bad because it didn't find something.
So I'm going to back up, and it's kind of, I guess it's kind of related, but because I have you, I want you to give me a solution, give me a not a fix, I guess, a way to mitigate a problem, or handlers listening to it. So the dog is the kind of dog that I call it bookmarking, bookmarks an odor and keeps moving. Either doesn't want to go to the car. I think a lot of those dogs, the hunt is just more valuable to the dog. They're like, I got it, let me keep going. And then I don't know where I learned this, but I have the guys document, if they pay attention, that the dog just doesn't like that odor as well as he likes that odor. And I don't know if that's true or not. When you have three or four odors, I don't know if that's as much true, but if you have 17 odors and explosives, maybe. I don't know if that's true. I think it's more of the hunt and wanting to do the hunt. Just like the dog that finds the toy at the end of a track and keeps tracking and doesn't mess with the toy. I think the hunt is more valuable to that dog, and he doesn't want to stop hunting. So if you have the bookmark dog, and I'm a handler listening to this right now, fix it. How do we fix it?
Yep. So almost everything you listed as a possible reason is true. So just like you said, some dogs just want to keep hunting. Some dogs, just like we have taste preferences, there may be odors that they find more appealing to them, and some that are more like, because we've seen this. I know you have too, because you've dealt with cadaver dogs. Some dogs want to roll in the cadaver. Like, they love it. So they're like, put it all over me. Yeah. Other dogs are like, something dead over there. My brain says I'm not going anywhere near that. So there are adversive aspects in some cases to an odor. It could be naturally adversive to the dog. They just don't like it. Other dogs, it could be an experience related adversive. Something not great happened the time they were near that odor. Maybe they got hurt, or a toy, hit them in the back of the head, whatever it was. And they're like, I don't know about that one. So my dog comes in, goes to that odor and walks it. So as I try to diagnose the reason why, I have to add, the other reason why some dogs will favorite an odor by the other one usually is related to reinforcement history. They've had a lot of reinforcement to that particular odor, and less to another one. So therefore they're a little shaky. And like you brought up, when there's like 17 odors or a lot of different combinations in the bomb dog world, you're just not going to always have a great balanced reinforcement history for every single odor. And usually where your reinforcement history could be the lower is why you might see a dog, catalog it, bookmark it, go, yeah, there's something here, but let me go see if my favorite one's in the space. Because this is a byproduct of putting out multiple odors all the time. And that's another thing I'm trying to get handlers to stop doing. Unless your career or your discipline really is going to have lots of multiple finds, you don't need multiple finds so often in your training. You need to do either 0 or 1 and done, or maybe 2 and done, depending, again, what your job really is. So in this case, what we see is one reason might be why is, yes, I know there's an odor there, but an odor I know or I can predict is probably here is maybe in the space too. So they will go search the rest of the space really quickly to see if they can pick up what I call the low-hanging fruit, the one they like the best and it's easy to find. Okay, don't have that one. And then they may come back to the other one and go, yeah, it was right here. So if that happens frequently, the handler's like, this happens to me a lot, and I see it happens a lot. I said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to let you know the odor is right there between that cabinet door and the edge of the counter. When that dog nose goes right to it, I want you to pay, whether you're throwing the toy in or marking it. Marking it is going to be a little bit easier because it's the speed of sound, and you're not going to get caught telegraphing generally. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that dog, when it comes to that odor, realizes reinforcement will happen almost instantaneously. So now I'm going to use prediction to get in my favor. So next time it hits odor, it might stop and give me even more response, waiting for something to happen because it predicted it would because of the training we've done previously. And then it gets better with it, I start delaying until full final response. But I'm going to start varying it up because if I see this happening in my notes, I should also be able to go, is it to this particular odor or is it to any odor that's in that beginning? So again, this is where we got to peel back the layers of the onion. First, is it a particular odor that's always happening, or is it the first odor in the space? So if I know it's a particular odor, So if I know if it's a particular odor, well, then I know I got a particular odor issue to work on more so than that. If it's whatever the first odor is and I want to keep searching, I've probably set up training too much where my dog anticipates there's more to go do. Don't care about that one yet. Let's go hit another one and we can come back to that one. So again, violate expectations. So I share this a lot in my bomb dog world. Right now, and I do it in the drug dog world too, just because they need to do it, because you brought it up earlier about cars. 30% of the time, whatever that ends up being for a handler, about 30% of the time, I have a hide at my start, somewhere at my threshold, whether it be the building, the car, whatever it is, whatever I'm doing, there's a hide right there in the beginning, at least 30% of the time, because I also want to set the tone of the dog. When I say search, start searching, because it could be right here, right where I say start. So that's why about 30%, and this is a rough number, this is just Cameron going, in my world, 30% has been a good number because it gets most dogs bought in that they're going to check where I say start, because it could be here. And then once they check that, there's nothing there, then they move on. Now, because I've created value at that start, if there's an odor in the room that's 20 feet in the room, the dogs will clock it and go, right here, because they expected it earlier, but didn't find it, but it is right here. And again, what you're highlighting is mostly related to our failures in setting up our training. We have, again, multiple hides out. So I've in some cases possibly devalued finding the first one. I also may have done that because as soon as they find the one, they get put away. There's a number of different reasons why in the training I may have created this issue in this dog that existed because of what I did, not so much because of what the dog did. But like we said, there are some dogs who are going to go, yeah, that's just not an odor I'm really fond of. My favorite one could be in here, which again goes back to putting up too many odors at one time. Because so many cops and agencies have to do a class in X amount of weeks, you're slamming those numbers in there so you can get those reps in. That's that double-edged sword. Yes, it works, but what's the fallout from that? Well, the fallout is I have a dog who predicts there's always odor there. There's multiple odors always defined. What I've realized myself, because everything I'm talking about, everything I'm giving pros or cons to, I've done it and screwed it up every way possible. So I'm not trying to, speak from a higher position or on a soapbox. I'm just saying, hey guys, try not to make as many errors as I did. So as you start a dog and you get them understanding odor, you don't always have to put odor out as much as you think you do. And if you have an experienced dog, you definitely don't need to put odor out as much as you think you do. The courts aren't counting how many fines you have. I mean, I can't say that as a definite, but what they don't care so much about how many reps you have per odor. They care about, does the training properly reflect what you're asked to do in the operational world? Is this a good enough example, and in the drug dog world, to be the probable cause standard that we would need to meet in order to do this? And again, Florida v. Harris showed us that, hey, certification's great, but your records are more valuable. In that case, they don't say certification is worthless. And I've had people question me about that because I'll say I've used words like they could care less about certification. That's too much of a strong word. What I really mean by that is certification has weight, but we all know and we all say it ourselves, certification is nothing more than minimum standard. And the courts have realized, and courts understand that, but where they find your value and where they build your credibility is, does your training produce continuous and rigorous standards to show that you're doing what's required of you to go do the job? That's why it's varied. That's why not every dog has to follow the same exact protocol, because bomb dogs are different. Bomb dogs don't get challenged in court nearly as much, but don't be surprised if we see a firearm dog get challenged at some point. Don't be surprised. We always deal with drugs, but drugs are, because we use it for PC, we need to make sure, this is why I tell a lot of handlers, if you want the courts to buy in that your indication is true and good, your training record should be maybe 50% of the time you have a find. Because if you're in a busy operational environment, you're making fines all the time, you don't need fines all the time in training. You're just doing that to make yourself feel good and check it off. I want to take away the argument from the defense attorney saying my dog's going to alert. I'm going to say, bro, look, I search regularly in training. Probably 50% of my training searches are either single blind blank or double blind blank. I can walk through. In fact, I'm showing more often I'm calling nothing than I am finding something in my training world, because operationally I do work and I have an interdiction unit, or I'm always working the interstate and we have a high fine ratio. So I don't need fines. I need to show that my scale is balanced. I'm just as good in the affirmative as I am in the negative.
Yeah. And don't let the task force boys intimidate you. You know, a miss is better than a false or a cue.
Yep.
You know, don't set case law because the jeans boys, you know, pushed you on that. So going back to your answer, fix that. I call it pay the sniff. You know, they sniff, bang. My favorite part of the pay the sniff, because when I have the handlers do it, they throw that toy 100, like Nolan Ryan, bam, into the wall or whatever it is. And I'm like, boy, you're really enthusiastic about that. So every time you talk, I come up with something else because I'm trying to get you off here. Great. But so when I'm teaching tracking, and I get dogs that, like, you go license sirens to a track and the handler's like, listen, man, every time I go to, they're calling me for a track, I get there and the dog comes out and wants to eat everybody at the thing. So what I start doing is I put at training the start of the track right outside the car. Right. Mm-hmm. Right outside the car. And then we eventually move it. And what I find is that the dog comes out and starts hunting for work rather than messing with the people. When you're putting hides 30% of the time at the start, do you find the dog comes out and without you saying anything, just kind of starts working a little bit?
Oh yeah. Again, I'm using their expectation or their anticipation to my advantage. I share this a lot in my vehicle sniff classes. I was just down in San Diego, did a whole 4 days down there with that unit, and all we did was vehicles for that seminar. And again, I'm stealing something from my friend Florian. I've had in conversations with him and watching Europeans do this, because the reason why I bring up Europeans so much is because they have been doing it longer than we have. So they've also done all the mistakes that we're making now. They just have more generations that are doing it better than we are now because of their history. It's not because they're better than us. It's just had more time doing it. What I share with them is the common problem you brought up, which is the dog sees a car and goes, especially when you're approaching from the tail light or headlight and you go down the car, they shoot down the car out of the cannon. So I need to violate that expectation. So there's two ways to do that. The most common way that most teams will do is they put the hide in the front and they hope the dog gets it, and the handler just breaks the dog. You know, the dog goes as far as the leash can go. Hey, come back here and check. Oh, boom, then you got it. What I took from watching them was I approached the car from the 90-degree angle at the middle of the car. So right between the seam between the passenger door and the front door and the passenger door, or if it's a two-door car, the edge of the seam of the driver's door or passenger door, whatever is safest side to start with. And in training, I set this up with this whole little magnet game. So when I teach cars to dogs, I put 3 magnets on the car. The first magnet, the hot magnet, is the one right there dead center where I start them. And I'm only literally starting from the car 1.5 feet away from the car. I am not back 3 feet, 4 feet, because that's encouraging the dog to shoot forward.
Yeah.
So what I do is I'm really close. I say search, and they hit that first magnet. All right. Oh shit, there's odor there. Yep, good. I mark and I pay. And then we play a little magnet game. I play the shell game. Now I move the magnet down to the, let's say, towards the front quarter panel. The hot magnet is now the front quarter panel. A blank magnet, I don't put the blank magnet right in the exact same spot where my previous magnet was. I put in a slightly different area, but still near the middle. Maybe higher, maybe lower, maybe left, maybe right, but it's not in the right spot, because people go, what about residual? What about lingering odor? What I tell them is your dog will figure this out really quick. So the dog goes to the magnet and we'll see that magnet, sniff it, and then go, not what I'm looking for, and then move one way or the other. I don't care, because I want the dog to choose which way of the car we're going. because that gets them buy-in of which way they're in charge. Now I'm going to go, I started in the middle. My dog pulled me directly to the left. We went towards the front quarter panel, went around the front of the car to the passenger side. Boom, I got an alert. So again, in training, I do this with this little magnet shell game because I do magnet number 1's dead center. Magnet number 2, when I do this hot second one, is going to be at the, let's say, front quarter panel. Third rep, back dead center again. Because the dog's going to go, oh, I found it over here, take off. They're going to go, oh, shit, it's right here again. Then I move it to the rear quarter panel. Then the 5th rep back to the center. So reps 1, 3, and 5 are always back at the center. Reps 2, 4, 6 are going to be the other spots. Within no time, we're off magnets. We just have now multiple cars that I go to where I either have something in the seam. And even the magnet game, I go to zeros. I will pull the hot magnet off, and it's a blank. Because again, I got to violate the dog's expectation. If they've had 3 or 4 reps with finding something, one of those reps is going to be a blank. So they go, oh, wait, there's nothing here. Because again, I don't want the dog to over anticipate that everything is hot. I want to bounce them back out and realize it could be hot, but it also may not be. And again, I can read my dog. And the sooner we do this game, the better handlers are at reading. Why do handlers have such a hard time calling zero? Because we've never put them through that too much. We wait until they've almost at the end of school, or maybe not even in school at all. That's their first time they finally see zero.
Test prep.
We got to show them. We got to show them way sooner than that.
The magnets tell me that you learned in boxes.
It's the exact same. That's exactly why I use it. It's an easy concept for every dog, especially for our generation, every dog trainer to get. There are downsides. If you do the magnets too much, they're going to look for magnets. Mm-hmm. That's why it's only for a couple of sessions. And then I go right into the car and the body of the car. And then I have to show the dog inaccessible, because one of the other bigger errors that we constantly do in our career field is we put Odor 2 inches from their nose. It's in a seam. It's in whatever. It's all these things, because putting it at seams is correct. There's going to be a social media video coming out that'll probably come out before this podcast where I talk about this, but we put it at seams because we know seams are valuable. Problem is we stay at that for way too long. We have to start putting it what's called as inaccessible. It's deep or high. And I need the dog to understand, still tell me, even if you can't put your nose 2 inches from it. But because we do it so often, always 2 inches away or very close, that handlers can read that pretty well. But the minute I make it high or deep, the dog is not as confident because they can't get to it. Some dogs get frustrated and just leave. They're just like, I can't get to it. I smell it. There's nothing here. I move on. Mm-hmm. And the handlers who can't read it go, I mean, I see a little something, but there's nothing here. The dog didn't respond because the dog had been told, I want you to respond, and here's how the picture looks all the time. And when I violate that picture, even though there's odor there, some of the dogs who aren't used to that aren't going to throw you all that great change. And the flip side comes to this because handlers will start going, they don't want the dog to fringe. And I say, okay, fair. I get that. But what do we call it when it's in the ceiling and the dog's alerting and it's still 8 feet away? Is that not by definition fringing? The only difference is that I made it vertical. So there's no way for the dog to get close, but we're willing to reinforce for that. And I'm not worried about fringing then, right? But what I want to show the dog is at times through my training earlier on, it's not going to be so perfect in front of your nose. It's going to be deeper. What I want you to do is exactly what you said earlier, pay on sniff. When that dog shows you there's change there, even though they can't get to it, pay that sniff. Because what I want to do is I want to build the confidence in the dog. The confidence of the dog's like, I smell odor, I can't get to it. I've tried this, tried that. Hey, mom or dad is right here. And that's the best they can do. I will pay that. But I got to teach them this skill. The best example I give is this friend of mine years ago. He was my lieutenant back in the day. He was a dog handler. We were trainers together. He did this little game where he was like, I didn't have a kid, but he was like, when you teach your kid how to throw a ball, do you start off with like, okay, turn sideways, hold your arm just like this, raise your raise your left leg, take a step forward. No, you take your hands, you go, throw me the ball. And the kid's like, they throw the ball. And you're like, yeah, that's awesome. He goes, that's the same concept I got to do for a dog. When they don't know it, I'm going to reinforce them just understanding it. Oh, cool. You got the smell. Perfect. Now, if you keep doing that, yes, you'll have a fringe problem. If all you do is pay when they acknowledge it, you can build a fringe problem. But if you're teaching the dog inaccessible randomly through your training, you will start teaching a dog to be confident when they can't get to odor. Here, mom or dad, this is the best I can get. It's right here. But as they figure out the best spot, the handler's going to go, there's something here because my dog's going left, right, bracketing up, down. All the things that we want to articulate later on in my records, how I knew something was there because all of these things happened. But again, because sometimes the training is too lopsided or too heavily focused on constant fines within a certain distance of their nose, that kind of reality doesn't match deployment history. That matches training reality, which is very different.
The first response to that social media post is going to be, but I don't have time to let it sit. We don't have sit time. Like it can't.
Yep.
Listen, I don't have time. I don't have all day. I got to put it in the center console and wait a couple hours for it to, that's for sure. I think what they're going to talk about. But
no, and I don't disagree with that. But I also tell them you get out of it what you put into it. You can be creative. You can find ways to do this. And how about instead of putting your dope there, what else can we do? Oh, I could get some heavy soaked gauze pads. Maybe I can get 3 or 4 gauze pads I've been storing with that, put that in the center of the car, let that set for an hour, and let that permeate. Because that might actually closer match with somebody who's trying to conceal something. They're going to wrap it up, do whatever, put it in the whatever the thing is. A large amount of odor is probably not going to be prevalent. But if I get my dog to understand a good spectrum of low to high, that is one of the options I have. The other one would be, like you said, where like I tell the handlers is like, okay, do you guys have a sally port somewhere at your PD? Do you have something where you can secure a vehicle where you know it's safe and you can do some of these things? Let's do that. Or even better, like I'm literally flying to Montana at the end of the week and I'm going to do a lot of the same stuff we're talking about right now. And what we're going to do, I was just talking to the guy who's running it or hosting it. We got 4 cars we're using. I can't put the dope in there overnight, but what we can do, we're gonna put the dope in the car. We're gonna drive around. Yeah. Windows up, AC on, heat on, whatever. We're gonna drive around and do exactly what somebody else is gonna do. And then depending on where we put it in the car, how do these dogs do with it? Some dogs are probably gonna crush it and have no problem, or it's gonna be easy enough to read. Some dogs, maybe it's newer in their career. They haven't seen this enough yet. And we need to see that for the handler. Did you see anything? Did you not see anything? What did you think happened? Because that to me is just as valuable as the find. Even if we don't get the find and we got something to talk about that you could, grab onto and go, oh, I see what you're talking about there. That didn't happen. Or my dog just did only that little head whip and that was it. Okay, so let's make this easier the next round. Our corrective action is the next car we're going to do. We will make it a little bit closer to a entry point or a trunk, tail light, headlight. That's the other thing we do a lot of. And I shared this recently in a social media post and it got some people fired up, is this was a forensic laboratory, an agency's forensic laboratory that wanted to test. So it wasn't like some independent science examination. It was still scientists. It wasn't a published paper. It was just like, we need to know forensically from a legal standpoint, if I take evidence from a car, it stems from a Casey Anthony case where her dead body was in the trunk of the car and there was all this chloroform. And could chloroform actually, how did it permeate? All these different things. So they took into consideration, well, when you drive a car, a lot of airflow is going towards the rear. So whatever you have in the car, what they got to learn was there was a collection of air movement, and depending on the substance, odor could be heavier a heavier amount of odor could be to the back if the substance was lighter, as far as like vapor pressure, things like that. Other things, the car does leak. The car can leak from a lot of areas. What was truly amazing was where it leaked from. There was we all thought for sure it's common for us. On some cars, yeah, that was definitely true. Other cars, like a pickup truck, it was coming out between the bed of the pickup truck and the cab. Like there was an area, there was some kind of thing that was, and when we put the camera under the car, you see the smoke coming right out. Yeah. And it was just following the wind at that point once it came out. So, and it was actually from an agency, I think it was in Edmonton, and it was freezing freaking cold in the video. So not only they did this, they did it with a brand new F-150, and you got to see air recirculation on, air recirculation off, all the windows closed, engine on, engine off. And there was different things that it did based on those conditions. And with air recirculation on, that changed the picture almost to like there was nothing coming out of the car. And then with air recirculation off, boom, smoke was coming out of a lot of different areas. So what I was just trying to share with handlers is don't automatically think door handles and door seams are always the best spot. Don't get in your head, because we both know this on the patrol dog side of things. human scent becomes valuable for some of those dogs. And when they smell whatever that they smell, that the dog goes, yeah, I'm a little jazzed up. Like you said earlier, they get out of the car, they're hyped up. There's already another cop talking there. We call it, you and I would refer to as like the shit bag smell. They know they're like all these different things are happening. That dog now has to search that car. That handler is trying to be careful the dog doesn't scratch the car or get too wound up, let alone those who've done the felony stop training where they deploy the dogs to the cars for bites. So now you have a competing motivating picture for a dog. For some patrol dual purpose dogs, a car can predict bite just as much as odor, if not more than odor. So anyway, what starts to happen for some dog teams is the dogs bite car door handles.
Yep.
And that drug, when they're in their drug dog mode, some of the handlers will interpret that action as, well, there's odor there. My dog did that because there was odor there. So what we wanted to know was how much truth to that was there. How did the person just touching dope touch their car door handle? Was that enough to get a dog doing it? So the first question we had to ask was, how often were teams even training on what we call residual levels of odor? A lot of teams were avoiding training on residual because of a lot of the reasons that they listed. So then if they weren't training on residual, then how do we support the argument the dog could be alerting to touch transfer? And in some cases, then the handler goes, well, no, the door handle of the car has valves in it or like an airflow. So when you close the door, the pressure lets it out. Yeah, we get that. But when we swabbed the doors, there was nothing there. Like there was zero. So the transfer thing, though could be true, when tested, turned out to be not as true as much as we thought. But what I was trying to get handlers to do is don't go, just clear your mind. Just search this, just deploy your dog on a sniff on this vehicle, and whatever the outcome is, what the outcome is. Do a good job. Make sure your dog sniffs productive areas on the vehicle, but don't overthink it. Don't go, it's this or that. If the dog just shows a head snap by a car door, maybe it's because it smells shitbag smell in there. Maybe it smells dirty diapers. Maybe your dog should do the predictable, repeatable, reliable things that tells you it's odor there. So when I go and do my seminars and we set up traffic stops, I'm giving it away now, and I still give it away. People still fall for it. But I do blank after blank after blank on traffic stops, and I get false hits seriously 90% of the time or more. Wow. And I'm like, you guys know me. I'm the blank guy. And you're still calling alerts because they don't want to be wrong. We're more afraid to miss an odor than to call it blank. And that just kind of goes into our ego, because you said the Genes crew shows up and says, we've been doing wiretap on this group. We know there's dope in here. We just need you to run your car or run your dog. We need a can opener. Just open the shit up for us and we're in. And that is where we get in trouble.
Meanwhile, the dope's been in the car 3 minutes.
Yes.
You know,
or they didn't even get it.
Yeah, they didn't get any. Right.
So that's what I'm just trying to get handlers in the bigger scope of things to not just buy into our own biases, not buy into other handlers or drug officers' biases to what could be happening. Just deploy your dog honestly. And the best way you'll test this is like how we started this right here was put in the time. Get cars that you can drive around. Doing the parking lot routine is good for certain things, but it doesn't match what you do if you're a canine patrol officer who does a lot of traffic stops. You need to set up training where you can get running cars and do traffic stops and do a lot of them that are blank. I mean, what I used to do, this was because I did traffic for a while, so I got friends with my traffic guys, and I said to them, hey, when you get like Granny's car from a car wreck and you're going to tow it, and we know like there's not going to be dope in this car. This is a 1978 whatever, and the two white hairs were in their 80s driving it, and they just hit a curb, and we're going to tow it. Call me up. I'll come by. I'm just going to do a sniffer on the outside of the car just to give my dog an experience that I can't control. And we know the inventory sheet's been done. We know we're good to go. Let me just run this real quick. And the opportunities I set myself up for there gave me good examples to show, hey, I deployed my dog in a situation that looks a lot like a traffic stop. The dog showed me there's nothing there. Now, am I biased to the answer there's nothing there? Of course I am. I'm using that right now, though, as a training example for my dog to go through, that not every single time we get out of the car with lights going on the side of the road does that, and I don't have enough cars in fleet to go pull this off. Here is one more version I can do to keep, again, my scales more balanced of not always finding something when I pull my dog out of the car. You may not be able to do that. I'm not saying do that because some guys may scratch a car and they do something stupid. So don't listen. That was what I got away with before body cameras existed, before all the other shit goes on these days. But be creative. And if you can get cars, there's a lot of detective, vehicles. You can be creative about it. I get it. There's some agencies that don't, but just be creative. Get friends, do whatever, and come up and do deployments like traffic stop style that are blanks. And the more your dog does this, and again, when you can approach at the 90, and I forgot I was carrying on with that. When I approach at the car from the side, from the 90 degree, the dog has to start searching right away. They can't take off a straight line.
It's one of my favorite things.
It slows them down. It's like doing a wall.
And I let them windshield wiper.
Yes.
You
go left,
decide,
go right.
buddy. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever you choose. So what I do to help handlers who, let's say there's a Jersey barrier on one side and traffic on the other, start dead center of the front of the car or dead center of the back of the car. Because you can still get the same thing kind of across. But if you constantly do headlight, taillight down the side, you are probably going to have a dog who shoots down the car. And then randomly take the dope off the car, put it on the side, put it in the ground, because people throw dope out a car window when a cop's not looking.
One of my favorite things to do is in the impound lot, we have 40, 45 cars in a line, and I'll put the dope in a McDonald's bag. Trash on the ground. The guys get pissed. But so last question, and this is based off of something you just said earlier, because this is something you taught me. Soaks are great, right? Whether it's get sent tubes, whether it's the cotton balls, whether it's what. How do I document how many grams that is?
Yeah. So I'll say, and I'm going to use this opportunity to kind of refine my own evolution on things. So everybody kind of gets, I was known as the anti-pseudo guy, and one of our people that we know in the industry gets very fired up, especially on me. Here's how I'll break these different divisions down. Pseudos are mimics. They have their place, and what I mean by that is they still teach an odor, they still teach searching skills, and they still teach final response. What I share is not every manufacturer is made the same. And when I interviewed the chemist from the Secret Service who did her whole thesis, getting her doctorate on mimics and pseudos, said one thing we have to consider is the scientist who creates the pseudo or mimic is doing so based on what they know or what they've discovered or what their beliefs are or what have you, and what the science may have shown them. So I do think there's a place for pseudos and mimics. Soaks is now taking whatever my training substance is, whatever it be, bomb, narc, whatever, and the soak is designed to absorb it. Soaks also aren't perfect. Soaks have limitations. Maybe not all the chemicals that are in a substance are going to be airborne or have enough vapor pressure to leave and collect on something. So a soak, though good, may only give me part of a picture. And then depending on the soak material, may or may not represent as good as the real material. So it's another tool. And if I'm playing devil's advocate between my non-real alternatives, so pseudos or soaks, I lean more towards the soaks just because in most circumstances, again, I'm not a chemist. I'm not claiming to be a chemist. But what I can tell you from my experience of working with the chemists who've informed me, and some are right and some might be wrong. Nobody's perfect. But what we can physically test from a machine that's independent of us, the machine can verify these chemicals are present here on the soak, and it's, let's say, a 90% match to your real. So that's why I will gravitate towards the soaks. And then real has its limitations and it's imperfect. Because whatever dope or whatever material
you meth is a perfect example.
Thank you.
Who cooked it? What they make it with?
What they make it with? How long? Our training aids inherently are flawed because what dope dealer is putting his shit in a mason jar, in a plastic bag, and all these things that become part of what I call the odor picture or the profile? Because it's not just the chemical it's not just the meth like you're bringing up. It's for us in the professional community that do detection, it's going to get attached to odor plus the plastic bag or odor plus my Pelican case smell, odor plus my ammo can smell. Mm-hmm. So though my odor is there and my dog is understanding meth, some dogs are going to go, meth plus ammo can plus plastic bag is what I'm looking for, because they have a huge history of reinforcement for that.
Yeah.
And then when you give them meth from somebody else's kit, or you get meth off of a person and you go put it out, some dogs will not clock it as good as another dog, because again, a newer dog, I try to tell handlers this: your dog's little brain is like AI, like we have in the world of AI right now. AI keeps getting better because we keep giving it more information. But in the beginning, we used to all make jokes. Remember the pictures where it was like Will Smith eating spaghetti and he had like 6 fingers and like it was half his mouth, half not. Now there could be a video of Will Smith and I won't be able to tell the difference if it's him or not, because AI got better. So what I try to tell people is, your dog, the more data you give it, it'll get better and better and better. But if you constantly give it its only reinforcement history is related to your kit, it'll be really good at your kit. And I know every handler watching and listening to this, if you've done it long enough, you've experienced this. You trained hard, you went through school, you have your dope. And then that first time you got to train with somebody else's kit and they put it out and you ran it, your dog went, and then kind of moved from it. And it did not hit it nearly as good as it did when it had yours out. And it made you question, well, wait a second, what's going on? Here's what it probably was. It's because it wasn't your kit in your way, in however way you do it. So just be always aware that there is no perfect, whether it be real, soak, or mimic, or pseudo. What you need to do is show the dog lots of variations of what you plan to find. So if you're a drug dog handler, the more drug stuff you can run your dog on everybody else's kit, the better you're going to be. If you're a bomb dog handler, same rule applies. If you're pretty much any detection, expose your dog to as many forms of what you plan to find: high volume of odor, low volume of odor, to all the different variations, the cutting agents that it does. Because again, I'll get handlers that go, "Oh, my dog is great. It'll say, I don't care about a canvas bag when it's by itself, but when I put my dope out in a canvas bag, my dog goes dope plus canvas bag, got it. When I take dope out by itself, no canvas bag anymore. Now the dog's maybe a little bit weaker on the dope because the canvas bag is gone." So I want everybody just to be aware of, odor isn't as simple as we make it. It's not just putting odor out and your dog finds it. How you put it out, what it's stored in, what you cut it with, what other things that in the bomb world, we're constantly pushing odors together. We're putting chemicals together to make a better explosive device. I'll end it with a perfect example. Today, Natalie and I were training, and one of our trainers left their kit here. So it's not one that we have. I recognized that it wasn't stored the way that we store it, but I grabbed it anyway. I put it on one of the cars that we had out at our facility, and she ran a dog that we have in training, and then she ran her own dog. And the dog that we had in training, she was kind of getting a little frustrated. She's like, he needs to hit that better. And I had it not at the seam. I had it in the middle of the engine block on a van. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't near the edge. But the first dog, who was a newer dog, actually stuck it a little bit better. It was a little bit more obvious that there was something here. Her dog, who has a lot more experience, showed some great change, but was like, I'm not really buying it all the way, and was willing to keep going with her if we went that way. And as we discussed, she was like, but my experienced dog knows better. I'm like, it knows our odors really good. What this highlighted was it knows this odor, but it wasn't as confident on this odor that didn't come from our kit. Even though I said you read it, you knew that, you already ran the other dog. You could tell something was different here than anywhere else. But if you're not a confident handler, you may not call that. You're just gonna say, my dog showed some change and it walked off. Yeah. Right. So we all know every handler has this excuse. If we missed it, we go, oh, the dog didn't smell it. And if we call it and we were wrong, we're like, oh, well, there was probably like the mouse that rubbed against the drugs and it rubbed against the wall there, and that's why my dog hit that. So we just have to have a good, honest self-reflection of what we're doing and being creative with it.
If you're working in this ghetto-ass city or any other ghetto-ass city, you got to make it smell like buttholes and ball sacks.
Yes.
Because everybody's jamming shit in their buttholes and down in their pants. And it's like, it's horrible. So do I have to put the amount of grams on every single hide in my training records?
No. So I'm sorry, you're right. I didn't answer that question. You write it down exactly what it is. It's an odor soak. And you list it by time. And I got this from one of the chemists. So I actually got it. Because I asked the guy from GetSent, how do you document this? And he gave different ways of how you could do it by size. He said, but the best way to do it is by time. The longer it's soaking, the more it'll smell, and the substance you're absorbing it to. So Dr. Nathan Hall did a test on different substances or different substrates. So like a t-shirt material, gauze, cotton ball, get sent tube. He did a bunch of different ones. And he highlighted in there that cotton ball and t-shirt material and gauze, man, pumped odor out really good, but it died off really fast.
Yeah.
The get sent tube was a lot lower, but it lasted a lot longer. So again, I'm good with all of them. Just know that they all have their potential risk. If you're always using cotton balls, and I think most canine teams are good about this, they're also putting cotton balls out that are blank. If you're going to put out a cotton ball with odor, definitely make sure there's a cotton ball out that's blank, no matter what the substrate is. So again, like you saw, remember at your place, I put out blank get sent tubes just in the pouch. Yep. And we had every dog go wham. And again, most of the dogs actually walked, they clocked it and they paid attention to it. I think if I remember right, only 1 or 2 went to final. All the other ones threw great change on it, but it made the handler believe, even though the dog didn't final, because it was the only thing in that space. And then you saw the minute I put the thing out, I took it out from the door and I put it open the stairway, just laying there, all the dogs walked right by it.
Yeah.
I said it was because the picture I gave the dog, it doesn't belong here, and I concealed it in a certain way. The dog says, I share a lot, I talk about cheat code I share all the time. The dog was using the cheat code. It doesn't belong here. It was novel to the space, and I concealed it. And then, of course, after dog starts running on it, they start going, oh, yeah, there's a higher probability here. So, again, when I violated that expectation, I put out the distractor just loose in the environment, almost every dog walked it. But I also had to tell everybody, put your dope loose out in the environment. Watch how many dogs will go up to the dope and walk away, because they're not used to it being right there on the table.
Yeah,
or
makes
right
sense.
there in the loose in the space.
Yeah.
And I'll add one more thing about traffic stops, because it was brought up in the conversation the other day. How many times in training have canine teams done this? Take 3 or 4 people that maybe they're off duty or whatever, have one person just do like you said, stick that dope under their ball sack or put it in their pocket. We'll make it easy. Just put it in your pants pocket. Mm-hmm. You all sit in the car. You have a driver who's not carrying anything, nothing on them. Another passenger has got nothing on them, but your backseat passenger is the one that's got dope on them. And it's your dope. It's your training aids. They got it in their pocket, whatever it is. Drive around for a few minutes, do whatever they do your traffic stop. Now, this is where people do things differently. Some agencies keep everybody in the car and they deploy the dog and they go around the car. Other agencies get everybody out of the car and they do it that way. Let's see, because a lot of handlers go, oh yeah, my dog bangs the car and it was on the passenger. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm glad that you did that. But was it a false alert and you played dirtbag lottery and you got the win? Or have you tested this theory out in training? And again, the handler doesn't know. Like the exercise is there's 3 people in the car, they're driving around, because I'm going to do blank versions of that too. Because what's the handler going to think? It's training day. I'm going to put 3 people in a car that have nothing on them. And then the dog goes around, because again, the handler's going to go, I'm biased. Today's training day. We're doing something weird. We put 3 people in a car. How many handlers or how many dogs are going to go, I'm calling the car, and then we tell you it's a blank. There was no dope in the car, no dope on people. But no one, I can't think of, because I know I haven't done this. I've done it maybe once or twice over the number of years. That's a low number. So I don't see many agencies doing, like you said, because it takes time, it takes prep. Okay, do we have enough bodies? Do we have enough cars we can drive around? It takes work to set this up. But anything worth doing right, as we all know, is worth preparing for. Mm-hmm. So we need to pick a night, and then one night in the month, get some extra role players, maybe some community service officers, some people that just aren't the dog people, maybe friends of friends that are, that obviously you can work with or trust. Hey, drive the cars around. Somebody I may implant in there or on one of the cars is going to be having dope on them. The rest of you guys are all blanks. And let's see how many teams can call this right, because that is your job. That's what's going to happen to you, especially with normal canine patrol deputies or a patrol officer who does does traffic stops. This is their life. But how often are we doing that in training?
Yeah, not often. The funny thing is, the company or the agency that I have a contract with, their training day is tomorrow, and our goal was traffic stops. We're going to do traffic stops, but it's going to be pouring down rain and like 48 degrees. I ain't doing it. We're coming here to the fucking building.
Yeah,
but I'm going to do some of the stuff we were talking about here.
Yeah,
with them.
It's just for data, just to share with them. Say, hey guys, like it's not a wrong answer. A mistake is not a wrong answer in the sense of you're fucked up or you're wrong. It's information to make us better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that I changed on this group when they started coming to me was, hey man, like I have 18 rooms. I'm going to search this one hide. That's it. And I want you to document it that way, you know, because they were doing the check by, everything was pretty standard, you know, 4 hides, boom, boom, was successful. And now we're going to, you know, start putting different things in there. And they kind of like it. I mean, you know, we got guys that come down and they're specifically just dope guys. And I'm like, so this office up here has 40 cubicles.
Yeah.
Good luck. There's not a fucking thing in there.
Yeah.
But they're like, I came all the way down here for no dope. I'm like, you got 400 kilos last week.
Yes. Yeah. What do you need?
Yeah, we're good.
Don't you want to show how good you are when the absence of odor is there too? Or there's no odor there?
Yeah.
No. I mean, you remember this because you were with NSW too. And I've never forgot this. And I use it all the time in my training now. Remember what you went out to SCI, right? The island? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you remember they're out there, they're doing the whole full like FMP, the whole mission's being done, right? And you probably heard like I did, they're on the radios and you can hear those instructors going, what the fuck are they fucking, like they're losing their shit. They all go back to that slab and the demeanor is totally different. They go, all right, platoon, you know, alpha platoon, chief, give me your 2 highs, 2 lows. What'd you guys do right? What'd you guys do wrong? And of course they always start off with their lows. They always talk about what they fucked up on. Every instructor was always very calm through that, even though I heard them 5 minutes ago losing their shit in the radio. Yeah. But the way they did it was to be accountable for their errors. And the best part I always watched every instructor do was because the platoon chiefs or whatever wouldn't talk about what they did right. They were always hitting the things they did wrong. Those instructors were like, yep, you're right. You addressed that. You addressed that. That's what I have in my notes. But here's what you guys did right. You did this right. You did this right. So when we do this again, clean up those errors. We'll rerun this. Let's have less of those and more of the things you did right. And let's go do it again. They didn't get themselves overly beat up, you know, and wrapped around the axle about the error. They went out and they looked at all those errors as those extra opportunities to get better. And they were always like, okay, let's execute that again. And you know, remember those guys, they would go fucking round after round until they were like nearly perfect. And then what did we do as instructors? You remember we'd be that one building out there by the hell box. Yeah. And they would have their little briefings in there. And then the guys, you know, all the training instructors would be like, all right, once those guys left the rim, they did their little op ord meeting, you know, and this is how we're going to hit. We're going to go Al Huey Road, go around here. They have the whole thing set up. And then they go, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put 2 eagles down over here. We're going to fuck them over with this. We're going to, and all they would do, throw monkey wrenches at them constantly so they could constantly figure out how to adapt. I think my opinion is we need more of that in the detection side. Patrol side, I think we're getting better at those things. We're good at throwing monkey wrenches into the scenario, but we're not doing that enough in detection. The more monkey wrenches we can kind of throw in training to get learning lessons out of, to have, you know, failure for the reason to learn. It's not failure to make somebody feel bad. It's not failure to say you suck. It's failure to say, if we have a failure, why did we have the failure? What can we do to be better? And usually the culprits are, back to how this whole thing started, not enough blanks, not enough variations of odors, like what we're using, not enough how we're putting it out to the dog that matches what they expect to find it in, or in a way it's supposed to be found in. So, and we don't want them learning that
abnormal pictures. And, you know, that's what I did. Like, talking about with the NSW, I put, in a courtyard, I put odor. I didn't tell Jay, the handler, that I was doing it. Mm-hmm. And he was up there and his dog and he's like pulling on, and he looks over and the dog's in alert. He turns and looks at me. I'm like,
yep.
Yeah. He's like, well, fuck, I didn't expect it. But the bosses, they didn't give a fuck about that.
No, like, they want some bites.
Okay, dog trainer guy, get out of the way, you know. And then because they were good for you screwing with them on the bite stuff, but they didn't want to hear about it with the odor.
No, you're right. I mean, everybody wants to see a guy bleeding, get ripped up by a dog. No one really cared. Mm-hmm. However, right after you left, we finally got a chief in there that was a dog handler, and he kind of helped make the switch because he said this. He goes, "Look, all these guys are operators. They know how to kill somebody. I need that dog to save their life in case there's a bomb there that they can't find."
Yeah.
So he did a better job of balancing us back out on. We even changed a lot of dogs that we bought. You know, Jeff would end up have to buy some different types of dogs because he was doing what they wanted. He would get them man eaters because that's what they wanted. Yeah. Then after we were there for about a year and a half, it started molding into, hey, get me a dog that still bites when we say bite, but also loves to hunt and loves to, and we can start giving a little bit more value to odor. We started doing what's gotten more popular now. I see it here and there, but we would lead odor, finding odor, could also greenlight them to maybe go get a bite inside. So we started getting the dog to buy in that odor was really valuable. And maybe even going to odor could get you to what you wanted. We were just doing pre-mac without knowing we were doing pre-mac and showing them, hey, eat your vegetables, you get your dessert kind of thing.
Well, dude, I'm glad we got to talk, man.
Hell yeah. This was long overdue. We definitely, you know what, let's do this again, whether it be on your guys' podcast or mine, but as we get questions from handlers, write them down and then do another one like this, because I think this is going to be really helpful. Because you and I will have no problem discussing the things that a lot of times others may be more nervous to share publicly. Yeah. Or they've had these ideas that just didn't know how to articulate them. And because we've been doing this a while, probably too long, we can kind of run through the pros and cons to some of these things. Because again, everybody listening and watching, Eric and I can tell you, we have fucked it up more ways possible to eventually figure out how to do it right. And all we really want to share with you guys is maybe make a few mistakes less than we did. We call that
why at this stage, in this day and age, there's no reason to just wing it. You know, I mean, I can, and listen, I've trained a lot of dogs. I've seen almost everything, and I still call you and other guys and go, hey man, what's going on with this? Like, I got a problem with a dog that I got to get a hold of a patrol guy, an alligator roll like I've never seen. I got to tell you, I'm stumped. So I got to talk to people about it. And I've seen I thought everything until this fucking dog, you know? So one last question before we go.
Yeah.
So since it's been so long since you took a bite, is your skin like veal now? Like if you put a bite suit on, would you be just bruised and tore up?
I've done very little biting, like, cause I'm right here, you know, Michael's here. They have some dogs. I want to say, I've done more, like I said, I've caught a couple dogs on sleeve for certain things, but I haven't put my fat ass in a bite suit because half the bite suits don't fit my fat ass anymore, which I'm trying to do some corrective action on myself right now. Anyway,
I know you look good.
Yeah, well, I got a lot more to go, brother.
We all do, brother. We all do.
So, but it's funny because I've gone through my feelings of like, damn, I kind of want to go do that again, or at least find a fun way to do some tactical shit again, mixed in with the detection, because I've now had so many years of just detection. I have a little bit of the missing of this. Gives me an idea. You have to talk off air, but we should do something to get together again where we kind of mix these two things together: a little bit of bite, a little bit of detection, and do some overlap.
Yeah, it'd be fun. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
All right, I got to go train some more pet dogs.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to K9's Talking Sense, where it's okay to be nosy.